أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We are constantly in need of refreshing our faith by way of signs and signals that we are truly on the right path. But the question is, are we even looking for them? A believer is one who ponders and reflects and doesn't get caught up on what is on the surface but finds what is deeper. A believer doesn't get tunnel vision but instead sees the bigger picture. Today I will try my best to relate the blessed life biography of a king among kings. However, don't just get lost in the beauty of his life, but think how his life can strengthen your faith in Allah, His message, and His messengers. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophesied, "Yanzilu Isa ibn Maryam ila al-ardi fayatazawwaju wa yuladu lahu." That is, regarding the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam, he stated, "He will descend on earth and shall marry and have children." Now, at first glance, this seems like a very strange prophecy. Why is there a need to mention the Messiah having children, marrying? But when you take a closer look, it seems like there has to be something special in the children of the Messiah for them to be mentioned. And that's when we get to see the actual prophecy. And that is the children of the Messiah being such noble examples for the believers. If I asked you right now to think about a male child of the promised Messiah ﷺ, who comes into your mind? For most of us, it would be, of course, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu. Maybe for others, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu. But I think, I would venture to guess that very few of us would automatically think about the youngest of these three brothers who lived a full life, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu. But when we dive into the life and the biography of Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad, we see the type of personality and character that most of us sitting here aspire to. A true believer. A man who, when you get to know, you recognize that this is how a son, a spiritual or physical son of a prophet, ought to be. Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad radiallahu anhu even once said that of the three brothers, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu resembled Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad al-Islam, the promised Messiah, the most in terms of looks and personality. It is related by Hazrat Sufi Muhammad Rafi Sahib radiallahu anhu that Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad's face greatly resembled the promised Messiah al-Islam. So much so that when Hazrat Sufi Sahib would be walking with his friends and would see Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu, they would almost always bring up this similarity and thus revive the memory of the promised Messiah al-Islam. Now, most of my speech today will be relating incidents and anecdotes from his blessed life, because I think that's the best way you get to know someone. Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu was born on the 24th of May, 1895, according to divine revelation, which the promised Messiah ﷺ recorded in his book Anwarul Islam 1 year prior. Think, again, let's think. This cannot be the doing of a false faith or a false prophet. At the time of his birth, the promised Messiah ﷺ saw in a vision that a rupee, a coin, had descended from the sky and been placed on his hand, on which there was Arabic writing, the English of which is, "bestowed with life from Allah." Now, the following incident that I'm about to share sheds light on this vision about being bestowed with life. And this is the promised Messiah ﷺ. He states, "At a time when Qadian was afflicted with the plague, my son Sharif Ahmad fell ill and appeared to be suffering from a very high fever like typhoid. He lost consciousness and beat about his arms in that condition. I thought to myself that no one was immortal, but if the boy died while the plague was raging in Qadian, my enemies would call this fever the plague and would treat the holy revelation that had been vouchsafed to me as false. That revelation was, I shall safeguard from the plague all who dwell in this house. The Prophet ﷺ continues, he states, this caused me indescribable distress. About midnight, his condition deteriorated, and I feared that it was not an ordinary sickness, but some other problem. I cannot describe the pain that I experience from the thought that if God forbid the boy dies, the hard-hearted enemies would have much material to cover up the truth. The Prophet ﷺ states, in this condition, I made my ablutions, I did my wuzu, and stood up in prayer. And immediately I perceived that I had been put in a state of mind which is manifest. It is a manifest sign for the acceptance of prayer. He states, I call God to witness, in whose hand is my life, that I had just completed about 3 rakat when I saw in a vision that the boy had recovered completely. Then the state of vision was over, and I saw the boy sitting on the charpai, on the cot, and asked for water. I had completed my 4 rakat, I gave him water immediately, and I put my hand on his body and found that there was no sign of temperature. He states he was completely healthy. I was thus bestowed fresh faith in the acceptance of prayer through witnessing this spectacle of divine power. So again, that's the end of the quote. The lives of the righteous are a means for us strengthening in faith. In his youth, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad studied the Holy Quran, the Ahadith, Islamic literature, alongside his secular education. And he was blessed to have teachers such as Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal and Hazrat Ghulam Rasul Ajaki. He had great love for the Holy Quran, and this stayed with him his whole entire life. In his later years, he would teach the Holy Quran to children as well, and in fact, our beloved Imam, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Khamis, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz, completed his first reading of the Holy Quran under the supervision of Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad Raziyallahu Anhum. He was a very intelligent individual and had a deep understanding of technical matters. He wouldn't ever answer a question right away, but would reflect first and then give his opinion. He would ponder over things to understand how they work, and this was his way from youth. Once, when he was 12 or 13 years old, he passed by a press machine that wasn't working. The operators had tried everything to fix it, but it wouldn't budge. He asked if he could take a look, and he walked around the press analyzing every bit of it. Then he told the operators what to do, which they did, and it started working. If you asked anyone that truly knew him to summarize his character, they would say he was a soft-spoken, simple, smart, and humble individual who had great love for Allah, the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and the Holy Quran. Alongside this, however, he enjoyed the lighter side of life as well. He would go hunting, and he was known as an excellent marksman. He enjoyed poetry and physical exercise such as swimming. He would travel, and he went to London as well with Hazrat Muslim Maud when the foundation for Masjid Fazl was laid. In 1906, he had his nikah with Hazrat Bu Zainab Begum Sahiba Raziyallahu Anha, the daughter of Hazrat Nawab Muhammad Ali Khan Sahib Raziyallahu Anhu, and a few years later they would have their walima. He would go on to have 6 children with her. Now, there are many revelations and visions regarding Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad Raziyallahu Anhu that the promised Messiah ﷺ had. Some of them about him specifically, and some shared with his descendants. Now, one such prophecy is as follows, and is actually a dream. The Prophet Messiah ﷺ states, in my dream, I saw Sharif Ahmad, who was wearing a turban, and there were 2 men standing near him. one of them, pointing to Sharif Ahmad, said, "Wo Badshah aaya." Here comes the king. Now one can read this and consider this to be referring to someone in the progeny of Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad, especially our current Khalifa, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Khamis, Ayatollah Aziz. But I believe that is a topic for another speech. Because in reality here, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad is called a king. And when we look into his life, look into his attributes, look into his traits, we see that he truly was a king in his own right. It comes in the Holy Quran that exalted is Allah, the true king. And then it comes, O Allah, Lord of sovereignty, thou givest sovereignty to whomsoever thou pleasest. These verses make it crystal clear that there is only one true king, and that is God. And he is the one that gives kingship to whomsoever he wills out of his infinite knowledge and wisdom. So the first characteristic of a spiritual king should be his relationship with Allah Almighty. As a poet once said, "Neither in the throne nor in the army is what is in the courtyard of a man of God." Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad had a deep relationship with God, which stemmed from his love for prayer, especially prayer in congregation and on time, which he always urged others to pay attention to. He had a strong connection with Allah Almighty, and this friendship manifested in many incidents throughout his life. Once he went to Kapurthala for hunting, and due to it getting late, he had to stay at someone's house for the night. That very night, a boy from that house went missing and could not be found. Everyone was distressed, worried, looking everywhere. Seeing the situation, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad started to pray to God in deep concentration. He prayed that, "O Allah, I am a guest in this house. Please let no pain come upon them while I am here. Please return the boy to them." While in this state of prayer, he became drowsy and saw that an old man was bringing the child back. At once he went to the family and told them that Allah had shown him the child was fine and an elderly man would bring him back soon. He told everyone to calm down and rest for now. The very next morning, just like he had seen, an old man brought the child back to the house, and this became a great sign of the acceptance of prayer for the villagers. Once when Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad was in London, his British secretary came to him and said that there was little money left and so further travel would be impossible. To this, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad said, "Don't worry, inshallah tomorrow we will receive the needed amount." The secretary was quite surprised because Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad did not know anyone here and was a foreigner. Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad states at this time that he prayed fervently that, "O Allah, help us and fulfill our needs in this foreign land." The next day, while they were in the market, a random man stopped Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad and started to exclaim, "Saint, saint." Then he handed him a check for a significant amount and requested for prayers. Seeing all of this, the secretary was shocked, astonished, and he stated to Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad that without a doubt, your God is outstanding.
Nara Takbir! Nara Takbir! Nara Takbir!
Now, there are many such incidents which I can relate to you, but let's move on to the next characteristic of his, which ties in with the above, which is his trust in God. And this next incident shows another characteristic or quality of kingship, which is his courage as well. Once, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad was traveling by horse carriage with some other people. They were on an unpaved road with shrubs all around when suddenly the horse stopped in its tracks. The passengers looked out and saw that right in the center of the road there was a large serpent, a large snake, with its head up. Seeing everyone frightened, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad thought to himself that Allah Almighty has made man the best and noblest of all his creation, then how come these people are scared? He got out of the carriage and quickly went towards the snake. When he got close, the snake tried to run away, but he caught it and killed it. Then another story of courage in 1935, there was an assassination attempt on Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad. A drifter named Hanifa attacked him with a large and heavy club. His intent was to hit him on the head and to kill him, but since Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad was on a bike, the first attempt hit him on the back. Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad got off his bike and bravely turned towards the attacker. Hanifa again swung the club, but he stopped it with his hand before it could hit him. Seeing his resolve, his courage, the attacker ran away. Later in his life, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad also had the honor of being a prisoner in the way of Allah when a false allegation was made against him and Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Salis Rahimahullah Ta'ala, obviously before his Khilafat. Even during this time, he displayed steadfastness, trust in God, and fortitude, engaging in prayer throughout, and eventually, by Allah's grace, they both were freed after only 2 months. Now, the next quality I want to move on to of a legitimate king is empathy. Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad had a great desire to help humanity. So much so that whenever he saw anyone in need, he would at once start assisting them. His sincere care would have a lasting effect on people. Khalifa Sabahuddin Sahib narrates that once Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad was leaving his house when someone came to him to share his problems. Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad put his hand in his pocket and only found a 100 rupee note, which was a large sum at the time. And without hesitation, he gave it to the needy individual. Khalifa Sabahuddin Sahib comments at this time that if this isn't true kingship, then what is? Once there was a widow in Rabba whose daughter became mentally unwell, at which the doctors advised that she should be admitted in a hospital right away. This woman was poor and could not afford the hospital bills. When Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad found out about this, he at once made arrangements for her to go to the hospital in Lahore and provided every necessary ease to them. And from time to time, he would personally go and check in on them as well. Chaudhry Zuhur Ahmad Sahib narrates that Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad would take a certain rare medicine that was not even enough for him. Once a needy individual came to him and asked for some of it. Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad took the bottle, poured out half of it, and gave it to the man. Chaudhry Zuhur Sahib again comments at this time and states that these are the people who are the pride of the world and who are never forgotten.
Nara Takbir.
He always knew who was going through difficulty, who was going through pain. He would encourage their well-to-do relatives to help them out. There are countless narrations of how he would walk the streets, and if he came across a traveler, he would give them accommodation, he would give them food, he would pay for their transportation to their destination. There are narrations where he would go buy soap, etc., so the poor could clean themselves. He would go to the store and buy things in advance before anyone asked him, and would give them to the underprivileged so as to keep their self-respect intact. And this leads us to the next qualities of his, which are merciful, kind, gracious. Like it has been made apparent already, he was a very generous and loving person. He was never rude, but at the same time, he never compromised on the truth. People would mention that he never made anyone feel out of place or like a stranger. He made everyone feel warm, welcome, and safe, and interacted with every single person like they were his old friend. Hazrat Abul Ata Sahib Jalandhari states, I worked with him in Nazarat, Taaleem, and Tabligh for many years, and I saw his care and respect for those that worked under him. And if anyone was in difficulty, he would not rest until their problem was solved. It is narrated that once when he was walking, someone started to speak to him while they were riding a bike. The narrator states that he saw this disrespect and got mad at the individual on the bike. But Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu stopped him and said that it's possible for some reason he could not get off. And this shows us another quality of his, which is husn zan, thinking well, thinking good of others. He was very loving and kind to his children. His son, Hazrat Mirza Mansoor Ahmad Sahib, relates, he was very caring and would encourage us to have self-confidence. He would take us out on trips and for hunting and on picnics and play with us, but still we had so much respect for him that at times we would be shy to speak straight to him. Now he had great respect, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu had great respect for his elders, such as Hazrat Amma Jan radiallahu anha and Hazrat Muslimah radiallahu anhu. And there's one famous narration of Hazrat Anwar, may Allah be his helper, of when he was a child. So I'll state that now. So Hazrat Anwar, may Allah be his helper, once related an incident in his youth when he went with Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad to meet Hazrat Muslimah radiallahu anhu. At the time, Hazur was a young boy, and so Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad told Hazur to go upstairs and seek permission for me to enter. Hazur Anwar, may Allah be his helper, narrates that Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad went up to meet Hazrat Muslim Maud in his room. He did not sit next to Hazrat Muslim Maud on his bed, nor did he sit in front of him on a chair. Rather, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad stood with great respect and conversed while standing. He then sought permission and took leave. Hazrat Anwar, may Allah be his helper, states that this incident was the first lesson of his childhood about the respect and honor of Khilafat.
नाराए तकबीर खिलाफत अहमदिया खिलाफत अहमदिया नाराए तकबीर.
Hazrat Anwar states the reason for this is because Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad was the brother of Hazrat Muslim Maud, but still took permission to enter, did not sit beside him, stood with great respect, and spoke in a very respectable manner. Now, the last quality that we will look at today, which I believe is a central theme in his entire life, is his utmost humility. This humility made him understand that Allah is the only way. This humility birthed the love he had for the Holy Quran, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and this humility churned out the qualities of kindness, mercy, and empathy. Mia Taullah Sahib states that Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu never liked for others to praise him or give him great honor. When people would meet him, they would try to kiss his hand out of respect, but he would pull away in such a manner that the person would not feel bad either. Like we had stated, he was a very smart individual because he was always studying and had a wealth of knowledge, but he never flaunted or expressed it to show off. Like I had mentioned, Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu was a simple man that wore simple clothes, never wanting to wear something that would turn faces or seem too fancy. Even his diet was simple, never eating lavishly. He was never mean or rude to anyone because he did not have an iota of arrogance in his being and knew that we are nothing. It is only God who has might and power. Many people that would meet him, they would get the sense that even though he is the son of the Imam of the age, his heart tells him, I am nothing. And this humbleness, this humility, has always been the hallmark of true saints and true spiritual kings. जो खाक में मिले उसे मिलता है आशना, ए आज़माने वाले ये नुस्खा भी आज़मा. That dear God is found by him who stoops to dust. O ye who are trying, try this recipe too. Then in another place, the Prophet ﷺ states, Badtar bano har ek se apne khayal mein, shayad isi se dakhal ho darul wisal mein. In your mind, consider yourself worse than everyone else. Perhaps you may enter the house of union in this way. This is what Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu remembered his whole entire life. All of us sitting here should reflect on our own spiritual journey as well. The pledges and the promises that we have made, especially the bet that we've all taken at the hands of the representative of God. Do we remember the seventh condition of this bet? It is that he shall entirely give up pride and vanity, and shall pass all his life in humbleness, cheerfulness, forbearance, and meekness. Meekness meaning humility. Our master prophet, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would pray. He would make this prayer: O Allah, keep me alive in a state of meekness, gentleness, humility. Give me death in a state of meekness, and raise me from among the group of the meek. The Promised Messiah ﷺ states, if you wish to find Allah Almighty, seek Him near the hearts of the meek. This is the reason prophets of God adopted meekness, end quote. This is a time for us all to reflect. Advising us, Hazrat Anwar, may Allah be his helper, states, each Ahmadi should try and be counted among the meek, the humble, the gentle. For the pledge of bed states that I shall spend my life in meekness. May Allah help us to understand this and live accordingly. But anyway, coming back to the life of Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu, after living a remarkable life, in 1961, at the age of 66, his soul left this transient world. The night before his demise, Hazrat Hakim Pir Ahmad Shah Sahab saw in a dream that Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu was lying on a cot. On one side, his father, the Prophet Messiah ﷺ, and on the other side, his mother, Hazrat Amma Jan radiallahu anha. He expresses to the Prophet Messiah ﷺ that he has pain in his arm, at which the Prophet Messiah ﷺ very lovingly responds saying, my son, do not worry. Before 10 o'clock, you will be with me. And this is exactly what transpired. At the time of his demise, many people gave testimonials, paid homage to the life that he led. Two such eulogies that I want to highlight right now are from the people that knew him the most. His elder brother, Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad radiallahu anhu, and his younger sister, Hazrat Mubaraka Begum Sahiba radiallahu anha. Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad radiallahu anhu states, my beloved brother was ill for a very long time, but he persevered and was extraordinarily steadfast. In the past 20 years, there were many times it felt as if this was his last hour, but God manifested His mercy as if to pull him out of the clutches of death. And through this, we were able to see another fulfillment of a revelation to the Promised Messiah ﷺ regarding Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad. This was the revelation, Ammar Allahu ala khilaf at-tawaqqu. Allah has granted him life contrary to expectation. Again, let's think how the lives of these people can become a means for us to strengthen in faith. He then states, and when we look over his life and see this prophecy, our faith strengthens that Allah and His words are the truth, and the promised Messiah al-Islam is His messenger. He further states, my beloved brother was very similar to our father, not just in a physical sense, but also in characteristics or in character and nature. For example, when he would make a decision or would advise, it would be well balanced and sound. It was neither awe-inspiring like one of his brothers, nor was it extremely soft and submissive like his other. But instead, just like the promised Messiah ﷺ, his nature was amazingly well balanced. At times of forgiveness, kindness, and mercy, he would become soft and melt away. And at times when discipline was needed, he would become like a strong pillar that would not waver. The side point here is that this is actually another quality of kingship, being just, being well balanced. Then his younger sister, who he was very close to since childhood, Hazrat Mubaraka Begum Sahiba radiallahu anha, wrote at his demise, Allah had showered His blessings on my brother. He had such great knowledge, which I don't understand when he had the time to acquire. He had firm understanding on every aspect of faith. He was a great teacher of Arabic. He had sound judgment and gave sincere counsel, and he was excellent in the interpretation of dreams, extracting deep points, which is why I would always go to him to share my dream. She states, due to his loving nature, mercy, informal and simple manner, and nobility, my respect and adoration for him grew more and more. She states he had a pure heart and was meek. He was a precious diamond. an embodiment of nobility. His name was Sharif. Sharif means noble, it means virtuous. She states his name was Sharif and his heart was Sharif. He would help all those around him, and it was as if, she states, it was as if he was born with the heart of a king, even though he led a simple life. Now, what I've shared today is only a small glimpse into the blessed life and person of Hazrat Mirza Sharif Ahmad radiallahu anhu. But even this small glimpse gives us an understanding of how to live an upright and righteous life. I'll end with a quote about him from his elder brother. He states, "Wo dil ke darvesh the, magar mizaj ke badshah." He was a dervish, meaning a simple man at heart, but he was a king by nature. O Allah, increase his station in paradise and help us follow in his righteous footsteps. Amen.